Hello everyone, my name is Carol Garrison with Carol's Creative Escape. Today I am very excited to show you a 3-panel scenery card featuring the New Horizons Designer Series paper that is in the January to June Stamping Up mini catalog, and it can be found on page 43 in the catalog. And I admit, when I first saw this paper, I kind of thought, what am I going to do with that? And then I started seeing people make these amazing cards, and I got a pack and I started playing with it, and then I started making amazing cards with it. And I've gone through a good chunk of my first pack. I have my second package arriving, I believe, this coming Monday, assuming the weather doesn't start snowing on us again. It is absolutely amazing. Goes, excuse me, with a lot of different colors. I've even matched it up with Granny Apple Green in some instances and Flirty Flamingo as well. So it's just an amazing thing. It does coordinate with this On the Horizon stamp set, and I will be using one of these images out of here for the card that I'm going to show you today. And the other thing I really like about this suite is these cute little enamel pebble shapes that come with it. I'm not using them on my card today, but these will be a lot of fun used in conjunction with this stamp set. So let's go ahead and get started. And I'm going to apologize ahead of time. I'm on the end of a cold and I've got just a cough left. Not COVID or anything like that, but when I talk a lot, I just start coughing. So I will be stopping to take drinks of water, but I apologize in advance for coughing during this video. I'll try to keep it to a minimum. So what I want to do is show you this. First of all, let me show you the Designer Series paper, because I just can't get over how gorgeous this is. You get 10 different designs in this package, and it actually comes with, in this particular one, 48 sheets, excuse me. It's 4 each of 12 double-sided designs. So hopefully I've caught them all. If I haven't, it's because I've used them. I participated in a card swap, and I may have gone through some of the designs as a result of that. This one I've already cut down a little bit, but it's just got more of this color and a little bit of the flowers on the bottom. And that comes with that gorgeous background. They're all kind of abstract, and you can sort of see what you want to see in them. I sort of view this as a skyline, or a tree line rather, with the sky and lots of colors reflecting in the lake or something. And again, here's kind of tree lines with a lake, maybe a little bit of a beach here. You can sort of see what you want in it. A blizzard, snowstorm, maybe northern lights in a snowstorm. And then there's this gorgeous one with sunset colors, perhaps. Tree line reflecting in the water. Sometimes I think I have them upside down, and I'm not always positive which way they go, but maybe this is a meadow with trees and the sky. And then just that background on the back. Here's what I see as water, trees reflecting in the lake, a tree line, sunset sky. Maybe snow-covered lakes with some trees. Oops, that's the back side. A lake, trees, maybe sunset colors starting to come into play. A little polished pink on the background there. And again, we've got a couple of lakes tucked in here, some trees or mountains. Maybe sand or field of flowers. And this reminds me of looking down over the tree line in one of the parks up along Lake Superior here in Minnesota, with Lake Superior being out here in a sunset, with all those beautiful colors coming down. So that is that packet of paper. It is a lot of fun to play with, and I don't think you can make a bad card because it's just automatically beautiful. Like, the cardstock really does all of the work for you. So I've got a couple of examples to show you. This first one is using Blackberry Bliss. And this is probably one of the ones I've used up that you don't see because I did use this in my card swap. And so you can see how you get a little panel card here with the view. And the most important thing I can tell you is before you cut your paper, make sure you stamp your birds. It's easier to do this while it's whole. It can be done after you've cut it, but it's a lot easier to get things to line up if you stamp those before you cut it. Okay? And then I did get a little adventuresome. I'm not sure, for those of you watching from the US, if you're aware that card sizes are different, paper sizes are different in some of Stampin' Up's other markets. We use an A2 size card, they use an A4 size card. And so I did figure out measurements to make it using, it's actually going to be in metric measurements, but using their side card base. It was a little bit of a challenge for me, but one that I'm glad I did. I would make one little change on it if I were to do it again. I don't believe I can do it now without destroying the card, but I probably would have cut a little bit off this edge so that I had my gap here and slid this piece over just a skosh so that, again, there'd be that gap there. But for a first time trying to do it, I think it came out okay. So I wanted to show that it could be done, and I will provide both measurements in the comments of this video. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to, during the video, just use the standard US measurements, and then, like I said in the comments, I will add in the measurements for the centimeter measurements for the European and Australian, New Zealand community. I tried doing it both ways in an earlier video, and it just gets a little confusing, I think. So watch for those in the comments. So we're going to start with a 5.5 by 8.5 inch piece of cardstock, scored at 1 1/4 and 4 1/4. You'll fold it in half. Be sure to burnish it. Fold this back and burnish that down. You want to have good tight creases here. And then the next thing I'm going to do is take my 2 pieces of basic white cardstock. This one measures, it's a funny measurement, 1 13/16 by 5 1/4. And I've stamped this using the Relax and Enjoy Your Stamp, Enjoy Your Day stamp from the On Your Horizon set. And I've used Evening Evergreen, good grief, for both of these sentiments that I've stamped. And then I've taken the Happy Birthday greeting from the Flowing Flowers stamp set to create this. And I'm just going to set them aside. I like to try to stamp my sentiments and put them aside so that I'm sure they're dry before I handle them, especially with my darker colors. Every once in a while I find that I end up smearing it. I can stamp it really well, but I end up smearing it after the fact. And so if I stamp them first, they can dry while I'm doing everything else, and I don't have that problem. Excuse me. The next thing that we're going to do is we'll have a 6 inch by 5 1/4 inch piece of this Designer Series paper. And I kind of look at the whole piece of paper up and down to figure out where I'm going to cut it off. And I usually end up taking a little bit off the top and a little bit off the bottom, just so I kind of keep all of the colors going. And that's what I did here too. You end up taking a total of 3/4 of an inch off. So sometimes it's just 3/8 of an inch and 3/8 of an inch. And then what I did was take the birds that are also in the On the Horizon stamp, and before you cut it, this is already cut, but pretend that it's not. Before you cut it, I just stamped it in my Tuxedo Black Memento ink. Stamped it, stamped, and kind of went off the page a little bit on that last one. And then what you will do with this is once you've got those stamped and they have dried, you're going to slide it into your paper trimmer as a whole sheet of paper. And your first cut you're going to make at 2 3/4. And it's really important when you start cutting this that you start cutting from the left edge like this, because your sizes need to be in this order in order to make the card layout work. So your first cut will be at 2 3/4. You'll make your cut, slide it out. I want to get rid of my blades so I don't inadvertently cut it. Your next piece, as you slide it forward, will come through at 1 1/8. And you'll make your cut and pull that out. And then your last piece is already cut, and that measures 2 1/8 by 5 1/4. But again, really important that you do it in this order. And you can set those aside. And then I also have a piece of cardstock that measures 1 1/2 by 5 1/4 that I have run through to emboss it using the, get the name right, excuse me, the Tasteful Textile 3D embossing folder. And that just adds a little bit of design and texture to the card front. All right, so we have all of our pieces. Let's go ahead and start assembling them. The first thing that you're going to do is fold on the score lines and burnish it. And then you're going to, excuse me, add your stamp and seal. To the back, I've already done this strip, so I don't need to add more to it. And lining it up carefully so that you've got an even border top, side, and bottom. Adhere that to the front of the card, and it's just wide enough so that when this flap is folded back, you don't see the edge of that, but it adds a little bit of texture and detail to it. Okay, then the next thing that we're going to do is actually put in the third panel that we cut, and that's going to go in first. No, actually, excuse me, I am going to do my inside sentiment first. Sorry about that. So I'll just put a little bit of seal, and remember with the seal, a light touch and that check mark kind of at the end keeps it from getting all gummy. But for me, the biggest thing is making sure I'm using a light touch. So again, I want to put this on here so that I'm getting a consistent border top, side, and bottom. Then the next piece that I'm going to put in will be this one. And I'll line this up so that I've got a gap between this cardstock, my white piece, and the score line that we have in there. Okay, and I'm just going to line that up, and again, trying to keep even spacing top and bottom. And then we're going to adhere this piece. So we're going to go ahead and just go light on the adhesive. If you're using good adhesive, you don't need to put a lot onto your paper to make sure that it sticks and stays there. Okay, and then again, I'm just going to put this on so that it lines up, the scenery lines up. And then the next piece we're going to put on is this piece. And you may be wondering, well, that flap isn't big enough. What are we going to do there? Couple things that I need to point out. When you're putting this on, please lay it down on your paper first and figure out which side of it is going to be adhered to this flap, because you don't want to put adhesive on the whole back of here. And I can't tell you how many times I have done that. So learn from my mistakes and don't repeat that one. So I just put a couple strips there. And then when I go to put it down, I'm actually starting where I don't have any adhesive, and I'm lining it up over the basic white cardstock because I don't want that showing. And hopefully if I've put things down right, I'm going to end up with even borders. And I think I've done a pretty decent job doing that. And so now that's where you get your 3 panels. And then finally, we're going to take this piece and using a few dimensionals, we will pull the backs off of those. And I'm just going to adhere this right down here at the bottom. And then to finish this off, I am going to be using my iridescent rhinestones. And these are also in that January to June mini catalog, and this is a product I really hope we carry over, because what I have found, carry over into the new annual catalog when that comes out, is that these add a lot of sparkle, but they also tend to pick up the color around them, and so that adds, it just adds a good coordinating bit of sparkle to your cards. All right, so they come in 3 different sizes, and I am going to put all 3 sizes on here. I find I get more of the adhesive off on a consistent basis if I use my Take Your Pick tool to lift these off. And so there we go. And that's just adding a little bit of sparkle to the card. So there is your completed card. It is not hard to make. The most important 2 steps that you can do is to make sure that you stamp your birds across the card before you cut the designer series paper, and then look to see where you need to have adhesive, because you don't want to put adhesive on this part of the card. Otherwise, you're going to seal your card shut. So I hope this makes sense and that you have fun making this card. If you do make it, feel free to post pictures of it in the samples. I would love to see what you've created. And I will post both the US Canadian card measurements and then also the measurements to make this card if you are in Australia, New Zealand, or the European countries. Thanks everyone. We'll see you later. Bye-bye.